Oops.
Yes, it's live.
Okay. Thank you so much, Megan. Welcome, everybody, to the latest installment of the Facebook Live panel chats. We have a distinguished panel of guests as usual, and our topic today is healing. And as I was preparing, as usual, we tackle some really big topics. And I feel like this one in particular we could have 5 episodes really, if we wanted to really dive deep into some of these modalities. But the important thing in the healing journey, as in the Facebook Live panel chat journey, is just to get started. So let's do that. Let's allow everybody to come on and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about why you're here. Why are you participating in these panel chats? Megan, Emily, will you get us started?
Absolutely. Um, okay, I'm Megan. I'm Megan Emily Riley. I'm in Arkansas. I know Kay from Illinois, so that is the most fundamental reason I am on these panel chats because I know Kay, and I've been invited. I choose to participate in them because I think they keep me very grounded. I think they actually have become a part of my healing, as do many of the any connection that we make, especially connection that is grounded with intentionality, mindfulness, consciousness. You know, we're trying to have a certain type of conversation here, and one that at its very core, at the least, is mindful, right? And so I think that's why I show up to these panel chats because while I'm not formally working right now, there's a little bit of influencer coming out of me, and I'm a very quiet influencer. I'm not really active. But I mentioned last month that my phone rings a lot and I get messages on the side a lot, and people ask me for my opinion quite a bit on things. And so I think that's why I'm pulled into a panel chat because the conversation is one that's authentic, hopefully, when I'm participating, and I think that comes through. So,
Thank you so much. Banya, how about you?
About relating to healing and why I'm here.
Yeah, why you're here, and also who are you and where are you coming from?
I am an acupuncturist and energy coach in Sedona, Arizona. And I'm here to because I heard the topic about healing because I think my whole life is about healing, and what I do is healing. My family is about figuring out how to heal the most effective way.
Thank you. Banya told me a fascinating story about the lineage of acupuncture in her family, and it's actually quite funny. They're like the reluctant acupuncturists. Joan, how about you?
I would love to hear that. I am Joan Advent, and I'm in Virginia in the Richmond area. And I choose to participate in these panel chats in part because I find as we come together and we speak and we share our truth and our wisdom, the synthesis and the catalytic nature of or synergistic nature of what happens is it's like new higher wisdom is expressed or is born through that give and take and through that kind of response to what is coming through each of us. So that actually happens to be something I love and am passionate about. So I love to enter into conversation with other wise women and beings, men as well. And in terms of healing, it's such a broad topic and something that, in a very different way, I think I too have dedicated my life to, not in the way that Vanya has, but it feels so important and integral to our humanity to know that healing is possible. And so I wanted to be here for this.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm Kay Eck, and I'm also here in Sedona. And I come to the panel chats because one, for so many reasons, but one is that I get so much out of them from hearing other people's point of views and tricks and insights. And I always walk away feeling more expansive. And also, I feel, and I think this is sort of a matter of human nature, is that when you have gained a certain level of insight or wisdom, or skill, there's this draw to help this your fellow man. And I've always said that you don't need to help everybody. You really just need to help the person who's on the rung beneath you. And the person on the rung ahead of you is going to help you. And that way we all kind of move together. And another reason that I'm here is because this path of becoming a divine human on earth at this time, it's just such a big journey. And I'm just here to help. And I think all of us can say, like, we just have this heart desire to help other human beings, our family of humanity, through this time. So let's get started. So, Megan, I want to start with you. And I would like for you to set the stage for us a little bit and tell us what we're talking about when we're talking about healing. I feel like that's the biggest question of all.
Here we go. So healing, right? Sort of knee-jerk response, right? What comes to mind first? Healing of the body, healing of the psyche, healing of mental health, and keep using the same word over and over again, healing. So what does it mean? To me, when we are talking about healing, we're talking about seeking some sort of balance in vitality. And in my tradition, the tradition that I know most intimately, which is the yogic system, the sacred science of yoga, there's a principle of sattva, and sattva is the ideal composition of all the things, the spiritual body, the physical body, the mental body. All sheaths, all layers of our being are in this vital balance state. And it is neither tamasic, which is a very kind of tired or lethargic state, or rajasic, which is which is like burning too hot or expanding too much energy. And so the work of healing is always to try and come to that sattvic state of balance. And so for some of us, healing is most easily accessed through the body. For some of us, it's through the intellect. For some of us, it's through the spiritual realm. But I think it's that process that comes in many expressions. There's many mediums, right? Many crafts, even many belief systems that create the environment or platform for healing. So for me, it's about that sattva, that sattvic state that we are neither too hoo-ah or too.
Yeah, balance, balance. That's lovely. Banya, can you talk a little bit about how you define healing and whether that has changed for you over time, like the last 5 years, maybe the last 10 years, how you define healing?
Mhm. You know, when it comes to healing, I mean, I'm doing healing on other people with physically many different levels, but I think true healing really starts with yourself. Um, with me myself going through my own stuff is where I think where a lot of things opens up because of me going through like a depression, like going through physical ailments when I was young, opened me up to figuring things out. And through that, I got I got to figure I really got to figure some of the things out because I had to heal myself. And I think that this is why some of the things that I have figured out, I can really share with the people because I know it's possible because it happened to me, you know? Um, and so like beginning of my practice, so many of the people who came to me had a condition like exactly what I had. And I knew exactly what to do. And then I hit a certain level, like that wasn't enough. There's something more. We are body, mind, and soul. And I realized I was just focused on just the physical body. But we are made out of its three level, and also I really believe they were multi-dimensional. And unless we look at the person on a on that level and healing body, mind, and soul, you're not really going down to the root of it. And and because of that, because this is how I got end up creating my program called Chi Mastery System to really go down to the level of energetical level, emotional level, physical level, mental level, and unconscious level to heal on a deeper part of the person. So I feel like I'm doing all of it now, and it feels right. And I feel like this is what my mother was trying to do. This is what my great grandfather was trying to do, but they didn't have a name for it back then. But I feel like I'm putting all the pieces together finally.
Oh, I love that so much. And I thank you so much for bringing to light the fact that healing, we're usually placed on the healing journey when we're in some sort of vice. There's some kind of pressure, whether it's physical or mental or emotional or spiritual. And it's almost like that's part of the process. And so it's a normal part of the process. But what I think is interesting about acupuncture is I feel that it is the one of the very first sort of alternative or Eastern modalities, healing modalities that was accepted by the mainstream. And I think it's been kind of like a doorway. So do you feel that for your clients, acupuncture has been a doorway from the physical to the deeper levels of spiritual and
Yes, absolutely. Even to this day, some of my clients are like, I have no idea what you're doing. I don't know why it's working. And I don't even know half of the things that you're talking about, but I know it works. And that's why I'm here. Even on a scientific level, in order for anything to prove in scientifically, it has to be replicable. But acupuncture couldn't do that.
mm,
So with the control group, the treatment group, there has to be result have to come up consistently. So scientifically, they had a hard time proving this. Only way they got start proving in America, in California, in a short story, in the court case happened, and and then acupuncture showed up, and acupuncture said like, I cannot explain to you scientifically this is how it works. But if you have any pain, if anybody have pain here, raise your hand. Including the judge raised their hands. So he went around, gave him acupuncture, and they started, the pain went away. And at the end, like we don't know what it is, but it worked for us. So we're gonna let this pass. This was like, I don't know, 70, 80 years ago.
wow, that's fascinating. I love that. I can vouch for that because I first met you when I came to see you for pain that I was having in my shoulder and my arm and my finger. And I ended up experiencing healing, like huge releases in areas that I were completely unrelated to the pain that I was experiencing that would obviously needed because it happened. So yeah. Joan, can you talk a little bit about when you first realized that healing would be a part of your journey?
Mm,
And then I have a follow-up question to that. I mean, really, it's like, what was the catalyst? What was in the vice?
well, I know I've spoken to this before, my own journey with addiction and recovery, and I actually grew up in a family where addiction was present, and my father started into recovery when I was quite young. So I do consider that a form of healing and a choice for healing. So in a way, I came up in a family that was oriented towards that type of healing experience and what I would call both relational healing, because a component of addiction often impacts the family and certainly impacts us, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychically. So it was as early as I can remember, um, that I was in the vice, and there was this particular form of healing that was recognized and that my family was pursuing. And then, of course, there have certainly been things beyond that, as well. Many things
Yeah,
beyond.
yeah.
Mm.
So interesting that this was such a fundamental part of your life from day one. I'm interested how your healing journey unfolded in terms of, this feeling of brokenness. I really want to explore like this relationship between the healing journey and this feeling of brokenness. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. Absolutely. And for me, I've heard both Megan's and Banya's uh, thoughts and wisdom around what healing is. And for me, it's encapsulated in the word wholeness. So that restoration to a sense of wholeness. And to the extent that any of us feels broken in any fashion, um, as I said at the beginning, the recognition that there's something beyond this. There's something beyond the brokenness, that there can be a restoration of full health, or a restoration of wholeness, feels key. And relatively recently, because I have a dog who clearly likes to use her voice and has nervous system challenges, I learned about the Tellington Touch model, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with. It's a hands-on model that was created by a woman named Linda Tellington, initially for horses, but it has since come to be used on other animals and on people as well. But the premise of it, the whole premise of it, is that it's working with the tissues of the body in a very particular way, very simple way. But it is the belief that our systems know that state of wellness and wholeness, and they hold that. And while there might be like this overlay or this patterning related to the brokenness, that it really is the return to the innate wholeness that exists.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I can relate to that so much because I was going to say that for my whole life, I thought there was something wrong with me, and which is another way of saying that I was broken in some way. And I came to realize somewhat later is that I was just a seeker. I was just the seeker of this wholeness, and something in me knew that whatever state I was in was a stop on the way to something better. And it wasn't until I just accepted that fundamental aspect of being human as this path to wholeness, then the whatever you're seeking to heal doesn't feel like an obstacle. It's like a stepping stone to that wholeness. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Megan, I'm like dying to get into like the actual modalities, but I want to ask you first,
Mhm.
if you feel like healing is required for human beings, each human being.
The word required is so wonderful here. I mean, I may ride the coattails from Joan saying, like, using the word wholeness. For me, a similar word comes to mind, oneness, right? And it's been challenged lately. I've had a lifelong belief that oneness or unity is sort of an end game for humanity, that there's going to be this big oneness that takes place when we all somehow agree.
Yeah, like the
And
Oneness
and
Festival is going to be happening.
and we're one, right? And this is really embedded in tantric philosophy and yoga in the yogic system, that we're separate until we're one, that there's duality until there's non-duality, right? And so when I was reflecting on this, I thought, well, yeah, it's got to be required of everyone, or how are we all going to get to this state of oneness? So I'm struggling a little bit with this, because some of my recent philosophical curiosities have brought me into sort of new playing fields where I would say no, it is not required of everyone, because that is not everyone's a sole purpose, sole contract. But it brings me to the Sufi saying. It says, "Those who are asleep, let them sleep." And this just comes to me over and over again. And it's like, how much of of the healing time that I spend on earth will be trying to get those who need to heal, right? Like convincing them to heal, convincing them to do the work. It's this pilgrimage that takes place, that sparks from within, and it is a fruitless effort to try and invite people right onto the healing boat. And I just think that it's not required of everyone, because we are one already, and we will carry some of this. Those of us who have healed, that's part of our purpose, is to carry some of it. So I know I'm not like laser focused on answering this, but that's because very recently this idea of what's required to be one and to experience this wholeness in our humanity, I don't think it has to include everybody, which sounds a little mean, but it's not. It's not at all.
Doesn't sound mean.
I
Well, I think
agree.
I think it's really interesting that I know just in my own experience, there's something happening by which each of us healing ourselves heals the field. And if you think about your children, my children are far more, they came in more healed than I was. And a healed, and then I had to go on my healing journey, and their children will be more healed than them. So we are collectively contributing to this overall healing. And this speaks to your point, Banya, that the healing has to come from within. If you want to be a healer, you have to heal yourself. And that creates a field into which your clients can, enjoy the fruits of that too. It's really very interesting. So, Banya, can you speak a little bit to I want to get into the modalities because it's fun, and I have a list that's like so long I couldn't fit it in a page of all the modalities I've tried, and I actually made a Facebook post about it a couple of years ago, how ridiculous it was. But Banya, what started you out on the modality merry-go-round, and how have you progressed? Like, tell us your experiences with a few modalities.
Mhm. I really like what Megan addressed. It doesn't require everyone, but eventually it is required. it's like 101 monkey phenomena. Like eventually, when we reach a critical mass, it's gonna be
Yeah.
it's affecting everything else. So ultimately, all main work we have to do is just us internally, because outside is just being a mirror image of what's going on in here, right? So ultimately, we just have to work on ourselves. But as far as modality or work that I do is, I think they're the two basic pillar. One is that one is that understanding that our body is intelligent. It's intelligent, intuitive, and instinctive. Understanding that is very important. Knowing that there's a powerful wisdom that reside within our body. I think the main problem is that in our society we haven't taught that way. We haven't taught since we're young that how powerful we are, how powerful our bodies are, and how powerful especially women's body are. And it has been kind of suppressed, and we haven't learned it that way. So we have to relearn to know that there's intelligence within our body, and there's wisdom within our body we can be able to tap into. And the second part is also powerful is that everything that occurs in our bodies and also everything that we are going through in our body, especially one that triggering us, are the gateways to our soul, gateways to where we need to go. And we just have to get past that area of healing and it's our soul's way of almost screaming, like, come back in here. But we don't know that sometimes it could be pain on your body. It could be sometimes breast cancer. It could be a lot of different things. And it could be just emotionally when we get triggered, when your husband does something, you get triggered, you don't know, you have no idea. But that is also gateway to where we need to go. It's not an area that we have to avoid or suppress or even try to get rid of it or even think that that shouldn't be there. You have to look straight square into their eyes, then you'll find that oh, actually that is what has been thrown from our soul to look at to come back home. So there are two pillars, wisdom of the body and everything, understanding and accepting that everything happening in the body in our lives are the gateway to our soul.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you. So do you want to talk a little bit about some modalities that you have that have been effective for you?
Well, for me and for a lot of people, it could be okay, always good to start with whatever you're dealing with. Okay, let's say headache, let's say anxiety, or let's say anger. Whatever that's predominantly occupying your energy, let's start with that. And there is always a narrative behind that energy. Let's say your husband is triggering you. And what is the narrative behind that energy? It could be, for example, he he doesn't think I am good enough. Or thinking that I don't feel I'm good enough. But that's underneath that. And as soon as you set that, or as soon as you acknowledge that, you can feel it in your body. And of course, when you have ailments and pain, if you have your body is always telling you where it is. So everything that's triggering in our life has a zip code in our body. And instead of as long as we don't do four things, we can actually work through it. What are the four things? When you don't identify with it, when you don't judge it, when you don't suppress it, when you don't try to get rid of it, you can be able to work through it. But oftentimes we do one of these, or maybe sometimes we do all of it. And when you do any of the four things, we give power to that energy. So when you let go of all this and you be present, you look at it, you can find the zip code and you go through it go deeper inside and you can be able to see where that come from, where it was originated from, where's the story behind it. Oftentimes it came from a long time ago. And when you be present and you look at it, give it a space and allow in your body and not doing any of this, it will start to dissolve.
Mm.
So crazy as it sounds, it already start to dissolve because it only wanted its tension. It only wanted our acknowledgement. It only wanted our awareness about it. And also there's other deeper thing work that you do. And then after all this, you will find that energy opposite of this exists within your body. Let's say, I am not good enough was there. And when you say, I am good enough, I am good, or it could be I am powerful. Well, as soon as you say it, you can also find that in your body. There's a location, there's a zip code for that too. And you let that two parts communicate. You let the two parts start having dialogue within you as a first person. It's so amazing and so powerful when people actually start having dialogue within themselves. It's almost like they go into that like that innocent child place. Because it often started when we are quite young, not always, but oftentimes. It just wanted to look at it. It just wanted, and oftentimes it comes down to two things. Is that the energy that blockages, it's often started with the two things. One, not feeling safe. Two, not feeling loved. One or the other. Sometimes other things oftentimes comes to that. So when they start having dialogue, the part that have a pain start to receive that. When you start to receive it and give it a space, it's amazing how transformation happen on a physical level, emotional level, and energy level.
Mm. Well, I feel like I should send you $150. Um, but what I think that you're saying is like the number one modality for any of us is this deep self-reflection and holding space for our experience of whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I think that that's free. You know, you don't need anybody to help you with that. And that, as you say, can solve so many problems. I have found that to be true in my own life too. And the application of love. Love, love, love. Like I feel like that's really the only healing modality you need is the ability to identify what's going on and loving it. Megan, can you please talk a little bit about modality? Thank you so much, Banya. About modalities that you have used in your life and what has worked for you.
Yeah, I'll be somewhat literal, because I reflected on this prior, and it's kind of come into these like little separate little, they're all a roller coaster. Every modality is a roller coaster. Let me begin with that. But I have several little roller coaster carts that I've stepped into, and the first one I remember, Joan spoke about childhood, and the first thing I remember was actually going to a healer in a Catholic church. Father Dennis Kelleher came from New York and he put his hands on people and they hit the ground. And I was never a skeptic because I would get up there and never once did he touch me because I was already on the ground just as he approached me. Like I felt the spirit. I didn't know what was happening. It was moving through me. So I already knew I experienced like the healing of the Holy Spirit. Technically, I didn't like fully understand or resonate, but my mom was speaking in tongues in the back of the church, and there was a lot going on, right? So I had a very literal, like, like healing initiation in the Catholic Church. And so that was kind of the first phase. I remember when I started discovering my own healing gifts, so to say. I've mentioned this book before. The Secret Garden was a book I was reading when we did a panel chat. That book changed my life. It gave me permission to talk to animals, which I already subconsciously knew I could do. And so a great deal of healing has, for me, has come through animal empathy and animal communication. And most of that has been self-applicable. Like I heal myself with animal wisdom. And that kind of like then I like moved religion out and I brought in service. And another panel chat that we've had is on service. And I replaced religion, formal religion, with service to others. And that healed me. Um, and I knew that. I knew I didn't even know what was broken, but it was this like service part of me. I needed to be there for others. And then I moved towards nature. And then I started like, the hiking and the biking and the being outdoors. And that was healing me. All of this while I was very vital. I've had seasonal allergies my whole life, but I haven't had many other physical ailments that just pound on me, right? Poke at me, right? That poking that Banya talks about. And then I discovered yoga. And so this was like a whole different like roller coaster ride altogether. Like I walked across the amusement park and like all of these other things to me were really like it's almost worldly in a way, animals and da da da. But like when I found yoga, that brought in a spiritual component that quickly moved me into the self-love work. And when I was 16, I became vegetarian, but 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I became vegan. So food as a modality to heal what now that I'm 50, I got some physical things, right, that I'm working on and over again, food, now herbs, right? Like another layer of, what you eat, you become kind of stuff. And that's kind of been the modalities. And I think what has worked for me of late is only going to I minimize the healing. I try to just be neutral. I try to let my body, what Banya was talking about, figure everything it can out on its own with time and breath and presence and a lot of patience because the body does need a little time to identify, to work it out, right? To poke at you, to communicate with you. Like, how can you heal something right away when you haven't communicated yet with the thing that's poking at you? So a little bit literal, but I'd say right now it's trying to let my body go through its natural processes. And then if I have to go to the infrared sauna, or then if I need to do a 3-day juice cleanse, or then if I need, to go get Reiki to like, I need someone else to help me, like move it out of me. Um, and I'm not afraid to go on service tour. We have so many friends, and it's so wonderful that we're still kind of weirdos. That's fine. I want to hold on to that badge forever, but it's very mainstream. We can, through the mainstream, access so many healers now that aren't hiding, that aren't quiet, that aren't pretending that they're not doing what they're doing behind closed doors. And that's a wonderful, liberated world we have now. And
Yeah. You bring to mind something I hadn't thought of before. And if the body has the innate intelligence to heal itself, is that also true for the spirit or the mind? Um, what does that look like? I feel like Banya might have something to say about that. So I noticed a slight nod. Banya, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, it's very basic of Oriental medicine, acupuncture ruled by yin and yang theory and five element theory. Five element theory is metal, water, wood, and so on. And based on that, there's a basic five organs and related to also five organ yin and yang, and there each one of them has emotion. So there's a sadness, sorrow, uh, fear, anger, and so on. So when we repeatedly having certain emotion, it will start creating blockages in the meridian system or acupressure points. And there are 365 acupuncture points in the body. There are three major 365 points, and each point is related to each day in a year, and so on. Sometimes I prescribe based on your date of birth because it can be prescribed based on I Ching. But aside from that, everything that is happening in our body is indicator of some sort. And it's constantly telling us based on fire element, what direction is east. And that's base of a feng shui. And metal organ is lung and its direction is west. Let's go with the example with the wood. Wood's organ is liver and gallbladder, and their emotion is anger. When you have a repeated episode of anger, it will end up damaging your liver and gallbladder, and it occurs in the side of the body. And when you listen to your body, when you listen to the wisdom of the body, it can happen many different ways. And one of the way could be direction in your house, it could be the taste, it could be the color. For example, you don't know why, you just crave sour tasting food. That's an indication of relationship to liver and gallbladder and emotion of anger. Your body's way of like trying to heal yourself. And when you become in tune in your body, when you listen, you don't know why, but you just follow that instinct and intuition. And also, liver gallbladder wood's color is green. I don't know if you ever experience wake up in the morning, you don't know why you get drawn to certain type of shirt or color you don't normally wear. Sometimes that's your body's wisdom telling you that will be the most harmonizing color for you to wear to create healing for your body. And one of the funny example is that someone who has like a liver gallbladder issue, their east side of the house is always messy.
Hmm.
So by just cleaning that out, sometimes you can also feel the lightness in your body.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that's just one example. And if you want to look into a little bit more, go to Google, look for 5 element charts based on acupuncture. There are a whole bunch of them.
Okay, fantastic. There's a free resource for you. Megan's writing that down. Joan, can you talk to us a little bit about modalities that you have found to be effective and the ones that have stayed with you?
Yes. So the ones, well, first of all, I want to speak to what Banya mentioned back at the beginning about the modalities, that aspect of love and that sense of kind of connecting the place of resource with the place that's disconnected from resource. That's the way I would articulate it. And I believe that in many ways, that's the root of so many modalities of healing, really is encapsulated by that. And for me personally, I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And so working with the nervous system through whether modalities like somatic experiencing or polyvagal healing work, things that are more hands-on, or I have responded well to things where I'm physically moving energy. And I have worked a lot with acupuncture as well for general health and well-being and to address issues as they come up. But for me, intervening through the body, as opposed to, I have participated in receiving various kinds of energy medicine, and those can and have been useful. But the thing that I always come back to is the somatic portal of, kind of telegraphing out to all the aspects, whether it's to the spiritual aspect, the emotional aspect, the relational aspect. Because I guess for me, my nervous system has been a key zip code, as Banya would say, for what I have needed, for what I've needed strengthening or resourcing again.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do how do you know when a particular modality, one, is right for you, and two, that it has taken you as far as it can? How do you suss that out?
Well, I think intuition and discernment are very critical elements to cultivate and to have in terms of determining that. And there are times when I have felt drawn to a particular person or modality for a short time or for quite a long time. There are many modalities as someone who was clinically trained as a social worker and a spiritual guide. There's a whole host of modalities that I have learned and practiced. And so there might be what's the flavor of the day. Um, so sometimes it's like what's trending, but really what has been most important is listening to my inner wisdom and what's the sense of I've just always had the sense of knowing like this is right for me or this is what I need on some level. I would know that. And so learning to trust that. And I would say that when I have engaged in situations seeking healing that were no longer healing, the feedback would be pretty almost immediate. I mean, I could feel it in my body, like this isn't right or this isn't working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that piece of trusting your intuition and that your body and your senses and your heart are always going to be leading you in the right direction. And, the number one place to seek is within, is yourself as your own healer. But as you say, sometimes, and Megan referred to this, that sometimes their support is necessary and available. And there are endless, endless numbers of modalities. And I want to list some of those in the comments. So I think that what's important for people who are just kind of starting out on this journey is to know that nothing has the power to override your power. And so you can, there's nothing that, can happen to you that you can't reverse or heal from, or, you're in charge and you'll always be in charge of that. For me personally, I would say at this point in my well, I'll give a great example of my whole trajectory at this point is that I was having a problem with my skin. It was just like looking just bad. And I went to get a facial, and she said, you need to stop using products. She's like, stop everything. And so I did. I stopped everything, and my skin recovered. Like it was like too much. And so we'll know, when I've had too many massages, my body knows. When I've had, I don't do a lot of energy healing with other people anymore, because I have gotten to this point where I'm just sort of like letting everything happen. I'm not taking supplements. I'm not seeking outside. But two things I want to mention. One for me is massage. Massage is just a critical part of my self-care, especially after travel. I feel like it helps me, or any kind of like big event that I've been to or a big experience that I've had helps me to sort of settle the energy, in my body and the zip codes that it's supposed to be in. And then the other one for me is like I combine both meditation and prayer, which I think are sort of overlooked a little bit as healing modalities. But to me, this it's prayer is speaking and meditation is listening. And whether I'm listening to God or my higher self or wherever it's coming from, there's this knowing that there's a certain truth to what you're experiencing, and that can be trusted. So and you're developing a relationship with this source of advice and guidance that is infallible, typically. So that's kind of my spiel. Um, Megan, I think you spoke to this earlier, but is there an end to the healing journey? And if so, what is it? What does it look like?
Death. Death. And then being born onto a new plane. Um, I mean, in my experience, no. When, uh, just the air we breathe gives us a constant need for healing, right? I think in terms of an attitude, yes, there can be an end where the attitude can dictate an acceptance of being never not broken, right? So I turn to a Hindu goddess, a deity, who really, really helped me when I was in the thick of my yoga teacher training. I had several injuries, and my ego was freaking out because there was so much of the asana, the physical portion, I couldn't actually participate in. I had like a shoulder rotator injury, for example, right? Um, and I was introduced to this goddess, Akhilandeshvari, and her name translates to never not broken, which is a double negative. Her name is broken. There's all this symbolism that I won't get into. But she was incredibly inspiring to me at the time because it gives us permission to accept that a human state, if we will over and over and over again be faced with our brokenness, and whether it's something that returns over and over again, like to a kidney or an organ where we're working on a chronic thing, or one type of our brokenness just rolls into the next. I think it would be very odd and interesting and perhaps a little boring to live in a perfect state of wellness at all times. How could I come up with a remedy to heal strep throat if I myself didn't get strep throat, right? It was so important for me to battle with my throat all those years because people call me now and they don't take antibiotics. They take my remedy. And I had to learn to heal from that myself in order to be able to pass on that same wisdom to others, which each of us have touched upon. So I think in terms of literally being completely healed, is there an end? No. But in terms of the attitude, I think there's one of acceptance where we might not feel like each of these little ailments is something that is scary, right? So might I just talk about fear? And I'm not going to talk about it much, but if we can be at a place where we need healing, but we're not in a fearful place, we have come to the end, perhaps there. Because if we can be without fear, just what happened to you when the pandemic was announced? What happened to you when the vaccine was announced? Were you in fear or were you like, I got this? And everyone was like, how do you got this? How do you got this? You're like, because I can cure strep throat. I've got all this knowledge. I've been here. My body knows. If I'm not scared, what is, what's needed? If I'm not scared, I can heal anything almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that the coming to terms with the cycle of life, the acceptance of death could be the panacea of all illness. And so that could be your most potent modality for sure. I know that's played a big part in my healing too. And it varies, you know, so it comes and goes. Sometimes I'm fearful, and most of the time I'm not. I want to thank you, Megan. I want to ask everybody one last question here, and it's about, kind of carrying along on this subject of whether we actually achieve full wholeness and wellness. Um, how do we, on that journey, how do we keep from becoming discouraged? And I'll let Banya begin.
Mhm. I think we are evolving every day on what our idea of wholeness is. And as we evolve to look at what that wholeness and perfection is, it is ever continuing. And seeing the perfection and wholeness as who we are, that's what we're learning throughout our life, because we already are. But I think our understanding of that is evolving and changing and growing.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Joan, how do we keep from being discouraged on this journey? Because
Mm,
it sucks to be sick. It's awful. It sucks to be in pain. It's terrible.
it is. It is. Um, I, I'm thinking of so many things. I'm thinking of a back injury I had in my 20s as a result of an accident, and the pain was so demoralizing. And I think of an injury I had 10 years ago where I tore two ligaments, and the doctor said, the traditional Western medicine doctor told me that it would never be repaired, it was irreparable. And dipping into those moments of, like, is this it? Like, is this as good as it's going to get? Do I have to live with this long-term limitation, we'll say? Um, and maybe it's my plucky spirit, or maybe it's my defiance, or maybe it's my denial. but but there was a part of me that was never went back to that doctor and was like, hell no, that's not I'm not claiming that that's the truth for me. Um and and again, maybe that's flawed, or in some ways keeps me in some sense of distortion, but it works for me. So I think it varies on what works for each of us. For some people, it's acceptance. For some people, it's activating that place of the fight. Like, I'm not going to tolerate that. And I do think that ultimately, the place of faith and of the belief that whatever is happening is not happening to me, but for me, and remembering that and living from the wisdom of that, and being willing to feel whatever emotions I might have in the current state about what is happening for me. Uh, so I'll stop with that.
Thank you so much. Megan?
For me, what I think what's helped me from remaining or from becoming discouraged is that I know that sometimes it's my turn and sometimes it's other people's turn to do the healing. Sometimes it's my turn to offer healing, sometimes it's my turn to receive healing. And as long as I keep my finger on that pulse, when I need healing, it's not my turn to be the healer. I can always come back in to circles like this. And when we are having conversations like this, and we're destigmatizing some of these you know woo-woo types of healing modalities that the general public might have once thought of, now we have the freedom to really explore our bodies, explore different modalities. So I just come back to that original statement. I don't always have to be healed. I don't always have to be the healer. I'm not discouraged because I can call, I can call Banyan if I need acupuncture. I'm not discouraged because I can call my sister circle if I need to talk out a dream that I had that disturbed me. I can do so many things to receive the healing too. And that's really encouraging to me that there's so many masters out there that I don't need to learn it all. I don't need to know it all. My mastery is my mastery. And if we have community and connection, then, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you bring up something important in that it's okay to be discouraged. It's natural to be discouraged. I lived with I'm almost a year free of a 4-year period of severe chronic pain that I also thought I might have to live with for the rest of my life. And I was very discouraged. I tried everything, absolutely everything that you can imagine. And I was laying on the floor screaming at God. And finally, I'm not saying it was that God wasn't speaking to me all along, but he she it gave me an answer that I was not expecting. And I don't think that I was listening. I think I heard it before, but I wasn't listening because it wasn't what I thought I should be doing. So my answer, he screamed to me, go to South Bend Orthopedics. And I ended up going there and I picked a doctor. He ended up being a hand specialist and I had surgery and that was that. And so sometimes these alternative therapies are not what we need. Sometimes we need some traditional things and we just have to remain open to what it is that our bodies are telling us and what, the wisdom is telling us. So I want to thank you all so much for being here for this important discussion. And I hope everybody out in Facebook and YouTube land benefits in some way from this conversation. And we'll be back next month. Megan's going to lead us on a journey into dreamland. So that should be fun. I'm excited about that. Thank you all for
thank
participating.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, friends.